Okay, right, let's get started then. So, welcome everyone. It's been 1 month since the Supreme Court decision that women in the Equality Act actually means woman. This was an incredible achievement by a really small group of women. They won against the Scottish Government and against Amnesty International. Has this been celebrated? Has this been noticed as a women's rights, civil rights movement? No, it has not. What have people done? They've gone, what about the men? How upset are the men going to be in dresses who aren't allowed to take part in women-only spaces? So, all broadcasters immediately asked, what about the men? If you've listened to Women's Hour this last week, it's been absolutely ridiculous. They're still focusing more on men than they are on women. And we're here because we want women's voices to be heard. We want the question to be, what about the women? And for the priority to be prioritised when talking about women's rights. And sadly, we have been let down by so many organisations like the NHS, universities, our unions, Nottingham Women's Centre. I could go on, Women's Institute, Girl Guiding, they've all prioritised men in their organisations. So before I go on to the first speaker, I just want to read out a poem, it's called On Differences of Opinion by Wendy Cope.
I know lots of trans friends, trans people are really upset.
We're speaking, you may
Really
Matt's got something to say.
Right, so, okay, I would like you to listen. No, leave him alone, leave him alone. Right,
Please do wait your turn.
please listen.
Please do wait your turn. This is Speaker's Corner.
Right,
Right.
I would like you...
This is Speaker's Corner. Please wait your turn.
I would like that man to hear this poem. He tells her that the earth is flat. He knows the facts, and that is that. In altercations fierce and long, she tries her best to prove him wrong, but he has learned to argue well, and he calls her arguments unsound, and often asks her not to yell. She cannot win, he stands his ground. The planet keeps on going round. Men are not women. So our first speaker is going to be Ruth. She was kicked out of a breastfeeding service for not wanting to include men in that service.
Thank you. My name's Ruth, and my way into this whole topic was through breastfeeding. I was a breastfeeding counsellor. I still am a breastfeeding counsellor, and I volunteered with an organisation for 17 years. And in that organisation, we were being told that we needed to be more inclusive. And by inclusive, they weren't talking about women who don't identify as women. They weren't talking about women who say they're men.
Or women who say they're neither male nor female. They were talking about men. They were saying that we had to support biological men to breastfeed. A group of us decided that this couldn't happen. We stepped up, we became trustees of the national charity, and we still had to fight against it. We were the majority on the Council of Directors, and because that organisation is part of an international one that is captured, we were suspended as breastfeeding counsellors.
We had our accreditation as breastfeeding counsellors removed, and we were then booted out of the charity as trustees as well. This idea of inclusion is a false narrative. When you include men in women's spaces, the most vulnerable women self-exclude. And that is what this is about. Whether it's language, which means that women who have English as a second language or who have lower levels of literacy means they cannot access written language. Services, spaces and groups that include men in the name of inclusion are not inclusive. They are anti-inclusion because they exclude the most vulnerable women. This is a safeguarding and a child protection issue. It is absolutely abhorrent that we were told we had to include men in breastfeeding support services. It is a safeguarding issue. We were told we couldn't say that because it was harmful to the men who wanted to use those children, those most vulnerable children. There are no more vulnerable people in society than newborn babies. That is who we are talking about. This is not okay. We were told we couldn't talk about safeguarding because it was anti-inclusion. That is still happening in breastfeeding support. It's happening in girl guiding. They are saying that if a man says he's a woman, so safeguarding goes out the window. Trans is a magic word that means safeguarding is irrelevant. It is absolutely shocking that not just individuals are saying this, but organisations. We went to the Charity Commission, who were told, despite the fact that mothers were our beneficiaries, that it was fine to be more trans inclusive. We were already trans inclusive because in law, mother means something, and it's the woman who gives birth. So it doesn't matter what you call yourself. In law, if you have given birth, you are a mother. We were told by the Charity Commission, you can be more trans inclusive. The only thing that can mean is to include trans identifying men. That is child abuse. Anyone who wants to, any male who wants to breastfeed a child is committing child abuse, and it should be as clear as day. This is in so many organisations, and it is absolutely appalling. Speak. We know that we are told that the trans community are scared to speak. It doesn't look like it when they gather here. They speak very loudly. It is women who are scared to speak. We are a small number who feel able to speak here, but we know that the vast majority of people know this is not okay. Say it whenever you can. Say it quietly to your friends. Say it loudly when you're in a position to do so, but say it. Write letters, send emails, keep talking. This matters for the ones who are genuinely the most vulnerable in society. Thank you. Who's next?
Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessie. I'm a local poet, and 6.5 years ago I got cancelled for saying that I did not want to use the term cisgender for myself. I obviously then became the most hated transphobic turf that there is. I'm going to read, I think, 2 poems, if that's okay. Please. And these are never been heard things because, again, I have been scared to speak. So this is called A Woman's Name. They say words are violence, but silence is worse. When a woman speaks her truth and the world roars back, isn't that the real brutality? Her name, J.K. Rowling, once synonymous with magic, with courage and belonging, now dragged through the mud for daring to say what too many are afraid to speak aloud. Women, she says, exist as women, not feelings, not identities, but bodies, histories, lives lived in a world that punishes them for it. And suddenly, she's a heretic, buried at the stake of public opinion for defending the boundaries that have kept women safe in spaces hard won by pain. They call her transphobic, as if naming the material reality of sex is a kind of violence, as if naming the erasure of what it means to be female is a crime. But how can we fight for women's rights if we can't define the word woman? This isn't about hate. It's about asking how far we will go to reshape the world, to blur the lines until they disappear completely. When women are reduced to a feeling, a self-declaration, what happens to the women who bled for the right to be heard?
Yes.
She says a woman's body matters, and for that they silence her. She says protect women's spaces, and for that they erase her. She says words mean something, and for that they twist hers into weapons to use against her. But she will not bow, and neither will we, because feminism was never about pleasing everyone. It was about standing firm when the world wanted you small. So to the ones who call her hateful, look again. This isn't hate. This is love for women who have fought, who have survived, who have lived as women in a world that punished them for it. And if we can't defend that, what is left of feminism? Thank you. And I've got one more, if that's okay.
Brilliant. Go lady, go lady, go lady.
This mouth wasn't...
Come on, Jessie!
Yes! This mouth wasn't built for applause. This mouth wasn't built for applause. It was built for spitting teeth when the world tried to pull woman from my jaw like it was up for grabs. You want me grateful for being tolerated in rooms where I once kicked the fucking doors in, where I once bled to be counted. Now I'm told to be quiet, that my kind of feminism's outdated. That words are violent, but threats in the inbox don't count in the message if the message wears eyeliner. You want to police my tone? Get in the line behind the bishops, the judges, the police, the men who told me to cross my legs and smile when I'm scared. But it's not them coming for me now. It's you in pastel protest signs and Twitter bios with slogans like kindness is a word to slice my tongue in half. You call me a TERF like that's the end of it. No trial, no chat, just boom, cancelled like a Netflix special, and not a fucking woman with a spine carved from every time they tried to unmake me. You say I'm erasing people for speaking my truth, but I've watched women erased in real time, funding pulled, careers burned, names smeared in hashtags for daring to say biology is a fact, not a phobia. You scream trans rights like it's a magic spell that shuts me up, like I haven't marched for everyone's safety since you were in nappies screaming into Facebook. You think I hate? I don't hate. I see the girls locked in loos with fists at the door, the women self-exiled from sport, from speech, from shelters they built. I see your progress built on the bones of women you refuse to name. You say my words cause harm. Your silence is carnage. Your slogans are shields you hide behind while real people pay the price for your pristine politics. You want me gone because I ruin the mood, because I'm inconvenient, because I remember when feminism meant saying no without needing permission. But here I am, sweetheart, in all my middle-aged glory. Not your scapegoat, not your blind ally, not your step-aside sister. I am the stone in your shoe. I've lost my place. I am the stone in your shoe, the voice that don't bend, and I'm done asking for fucking permission. You want to silence me? You better bring an army, because this mouth, this stubborn, snarling, truth's slinging mouth was never yours to close. Thank you.
Right, that was so powerful. I'm kind of speechless actually, so I don't know why I volunteered to go next, but what I will say is that we've organised today to give ordinary women a voice, and what a voice, absolute legend. Anybody who has the guts and the courage to stand here in Speaker's Corner after only a couple of weeks ago, women, including some of ourselves, wanted to do the very same thing. And we were prevented. We were stopped by a mob of angry men in dresses. Men who like to put on women's knickers and say, get out of my way, let me in the women's toilets, I'm more vulnerable than you. And we have every right to stand here and say, no, get out. The police completely let us down those 2 days. We publicised the event. We said, women, come down, come and have, you've got something to say it. And we were prevented twice. Both times we ended up at the police station for our own safety. How can it be in 2025 that women in England cannot go to a place designated to speak publicly and be just told, no, fuck off. We're not having it. We're taking it back, and we're going to, and to all the men in dresses, including these brutes, to all the men who came along and told us, no, you're a TERF, you're a horrible, mean woman. I say we're taking it back, and we're going to do it over and over again. And I will say thank you to the police today, because they have finally listened, and not a moment too soon. Because Gary Gordon, the police chief crime commissioner, he has a responsibility to women. He claims to have, well, he does, they have 2 campaigns for women in Nottingham. One called Don't Be That Guy, and on the day, they were those fucking guys. They were the guys who said, no, you women, you're not going to speak. You're going to have to go home and speak quietly to each other. And we said, no, we're going to go to the police station. And we'll do it there. And funny this, but the men in the dresses didn't follow us. They didn't come. They just stayed here, making a point that they are taking over our spaces. Even the public ones, where we're entitled to come and say these things. The council today, I'm just going off on one now, but the council today put out a message saying, oh, it's an international anti-homophobia, anti-biphobia, anti-transphobia. Well, I tell you what, every day is anti-homophobia day, and trans is homophobia. Yeah. Women don't have penises. Yeah? Lesbians don't want men. However, they dress it up. Yeah? It's coercion therapy. That is the homophobia. So, Nottingham Council, what the fuck are you doing? Start protecting women. When's it International Women Can Speak Day? About whatever they want. These things are perfectly lawful to say. Right, I'm back on track now. The other campaign they have, Nottinghamshire Police, walk in her shoes. All right, well, they need to walk in our shoes and come down and listen to us now, which they are now, fair enough. But on the day we told them, we get these violent threats. They told us they were not going to let us speak. They were going to drown us out. They were going to drag our host out. And you know what the police did? They did fuck all. They stood by. They were in a van there while a massive mob of men in dresses stood here and said, no, you can't speak. We don't want to hear what you've got to say. It's Speaker's Corner. We have a right to be heard. Yes, I'll be heckled and challenged. Fine, we already have. We dealt with it. But the point is, we have a right to be heard without fear of intimidation or violence. So come and walk in our shoes. Come and listen to us where you are today. Yeah, I'm just repeating myself now.
Doing great.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, do you know what? The Supreme Court ruling, as elated as I was, because it was brilliant, but it shouldn't have taken ordinary women like us to go to like the Supreme Court and say, oh yeah, men aren't actually women in law. So then I was angry, and I'm obviously still angry now. Why is it in all of our schools? Why are we not allowed to speak publicly about this? The reason we're speaking publicly about it today, in case anyone goes, oh, you're speaking now, is because we didn't advertise it. Because if we did, the group of angry men who like to fumble women's gussets in their knickers would come and say, no, you're not allowed to speak. So we have to do it on the down low. But not anymore. We're going to be here and we're going to be speaking. That's it. I don't know. Yeah, don't be that guy. Be the guy who speaks up for women.
How do I attach that?
Hi, my name's Layla. The only time I've spoken publicly about women's rights was when I came to join a women's rights network vigil for the women in Afghanistan. And that really struck home to me because those women have lost so much. And I want to recognise that women's rights are important, and that if we don't protect them, we don't know what could happen in the future. If we can't define a woman, then we can't have any women's rights. The Supreme Court ruling that day was a fantastic feeling to know that all those years we'd been spent watching these people be cancelled, worried about safeguarding of our children, looking at women's spaces and thinking, can we actually speak up for those spaces? We were right all along. Women did have those rights. Women still have those rights. And anywhere you see an organisation saying it's for women, then it is only for women. Not any kind of man that says they're a woman. They can't go in those spaces. And it's up to us to now claw this back. As much as it was really brilliant to have that Supreme Court ruling, it's been awful to see the amount of places that are trying to keep going with the wrong interpretation of the law. They are trying to keep going from not having single-sex spaces actually be single-sex. And it's really important for all of us to know that we can now speak with the law on our side, as it always was, and know that we can therefore challenge. We can go to our scout group and say, no, there can't be boys in girls' rooms, no matter how they feel about themselves. Support them, be kind to them, but don't let them go in girls' changing spaces or in their overnight sleeping accommodation. We can go to our schools and say, there is only man and woman. You can't go from one to the other. Their spaces are safe, and we cannot let children grow up believing that they can change sex and that they will be treated for all purposes as the opposite sex. That is not what the law says. They are safe from discrimination. Trans people are safe from discrimination, but they are not allowed in the opposite sex spaces. Otherwise, we don't have any single sex spaces. We can go and challenge where we see there are problems, and we need to do that small work now. We need to go and say, we want to support lesbians who want to have a dating night with no men present. We don't want to be like LGBT Youth Scotland, who told teenage girls, if you're going to an event, take some condoms because some lesbians have penises. That is not okay. That is not okay. And we need to be challenging organisations, whatever the organisations. Challenge the BBC, whose children in need supported that charity. We have got to be looking at all the little places where this ideology has run rampant, and we need, exactly like the Women's Centre, if it says in the title it's for women, it's for women. That's the law. It's a single sex, and that is the law. It always was. It always was the law. And that's the thing. We keep hearing on the radio people being asked about these trans-identified people who are now distressed because they can't go into the changing rooms they've always used or the spaces they've always used, but actually they were never allowed in there. And the organisations that told them they were wrong. And we now need to redress that balance and go back to women actually having their own spaces. And I I'm grateful for the Supreme Court ruling because it makes me confident to stand here and say that. But I'm also really distressed that we still have so much work to do, and we just all need to keep pushing to make those changes. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak?
Thanks for having me. I want to talk about boundaries and language. No is a complete sentence. No men in women's spaces, whatever they call themselves. No men in any women's only services. No men in any women's only facilities. Those single sex spaces are there for a reason and have always been there for a reason. And they're not single sex if they include men. Trans women are men, and they always have been and they always will be. So we need to be clear on our boundaries and we need to say no. Also, we need to use our own language. We need to say men. These are men. They are not any kind of woman. There's only one kind of woman, an adult human female. There's no other kind of woman. If you think you're another kind of woman, you're a man. You don't need to be in our spaces. Have some respect. Stay out. That is all we are asking. And that's all we've been asking for 15 years. And we're going to keep asking it. Men are men. Women are women. Everybody knows the difference between a man and a woman. Your 4-year-old knows the difference. Unfortunately, they're being indoctrinated in our schools and they're being told they can change sex, that human beings can change sex. No human being can change sex. Dress how you like. Look how you like. Have long hair if you're a bloke. Have short hair if you're a woman. But you do not change sex. And single sex services, spaces and facilities that are meant for women are women only. So stop saying, using their language, they are men. Call it out. Male teachers, male PE teachers are now got the unions behind them to say they should still be allowed in your daughter's changing rooms at school. Male PE teachers, get that in your heads. Why is a male PE teacher in a girl's changing room in school? Because he has a special feeling that no one else has. It's a safeguarding risk. If your school is doing that, call them out. Call upon all the organisations that we have on our leaflets. Sex Matters, Women's Rights Network, Let Women Speak. Call to them, get some help, write to your schools and protect your children. Do not use their language and always say no. Thank you.
Hello. All right, so I don't normally speak at these things, but yeah. So I got into this 2018. I was walking. I just came out to my family, and the first thing I thought I should do was go to one of those marches, that you do. I was living in London at the time. And I thought, what would be a good charity for me to walk with and feel like I'm like no longer hiding who I am. And I thought, oh, there's this nice charity called Stonewall. And then, bless my heart, yeah, I know. And then, I remember we were all given pink shirts, and it was 2018. And I remember something happened right at the start of the march. All these women just jumped right at the front of the queue, and everyone was booing them. And I was just thinking, what was happening? And there was women and they're holding flags. And I think at the time it was LGB or drop the T or something like that. Yeah. It was get the L out. And then what we were told to don't even speak to those people, don't look at them, and don't try to answer any of their questions. Don't try to question them. So we were just separated from that kind of divide, and I just thought there were I just thought there were just crazy people and just making a riot. I had no idea what was happening, and then after that, I just went into that hole of discovering exactly what is a lesbian, what is homosexuality, and somehow it turned out that now that's all about gender. And I had a very close friend, my best friend at school, and she was really in a bad place, and she was wearing binders, and I thought, what's happening in her life? And I knew that she was going through a really rough time, and I was just trying to ask questions to her. Sorry, I'm getting my... I just felt like I wanted to help her, but my questions seemed to be hurting her. I had no idea what was happening, and it just felt like they're taking advantage of us at a young age, where we want to find connection and friends, but somehow we're just pulled into this mindset that there's something wrong with you, and you have to medicalize yourself. Sorry. Yeah. And I just hate that it's happening. Sorry. Yeah. So, thank you. Sorry. Yeah. So. Yeah. Anyway, that's why I'm here, and yeah, I just really appreciate what people are doing, because I've never spoken before, and I went to the LGBT whatever cafe in Gedling, and they were so nice to me, and they were so welcoming, and I just thought, if I told them what I actually think, they would kick me out and they would hate me. So I just thought, what's the point? So, but now I see that there's actual reason to start talking, and yeah. So thanks. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'll take this off. He wants this. He wants this. Here you go. Oh, thank you. I'm back.
Before I finished on the wrong poem, so I was going to do the poem that I was originally going to do, but sorry, what's your name? Mahalia has just reminded me of another poem that I wrote when I found out someone was planning to have a double mastectomy because she identifies non-binary. I didn't send her the poem because we all know what that would create, but I don't feel like this one needs to be shouted. Let's gather round, let's have a moment. So this is called This Is Not Freedom. Tell me, when did being a woman become something to escape? When did our bodies become battlegrounds so brutal that surrender felt like the only choice? They tell you it's liberation, that carving away your chest is a revolution in the mirror, a reclamation of self. But whose voice is that really? Is it yours? Or is it the echo of a society that never let you belong in the first place? They never taught you how to love the weight of your skin, how to carry breasts like a banner instead of a burden. They told you they were targets, something to be ogled or erased. So you erased them, because isn't that what they wanted? For you to take yourself apart before they had the chance? They call it dysphoria, but isn't it just another name for the way the world teaches us to hate ourselves? Isn't it just a reflection of every ad, every leer, every hand that took without asking? And now they call it choice. They wrap it in words like agency, like you haven't been sculpted by the very forces that made you want to disappear. They don't tell you about the scars, the numbness that lingers long after the pain. They don't tell you about regrets, the ones who wish they could go back but can't. Because this isn't dye you can wash out or a name you can change. This is your body, irreversible. This is flesh and blood and bone. They don't want you to ask why. Why so many of us are opting out, like womanhood is a role we didn't audition for but are punished for refusing to play. Why the sharp rise, why the clusters of doubt spreading like wildfire among the young, the vulnerable, the neurodivergent, the ones looking for answers in a culture that only offers a scalpel. They call it progress, but is it progress to mutilate the evidence of our oppression? To cut away the parts of us that make us women in a world that feels and fears and despises us for it? Isn't this just another form of harm, another way to silence our rage? To all the women who don't want to be women anymore, I see you, I feel the weight of what you carry, but this is not freedom. Freedom isn't found on an operating table or in the approval of a system that profits off your pain. Freedom is knowing you are enough. Breasts, scars, curves and all. Freedom is tearing down the walls that made you feel small in the first place. Freedom is not erasing yourself, but owning every inch of who you are. Thank you. Yay! I had to do that after you said all that. I thought you'd resonate. Sorry. Keep forgetting about that.
Yeah, I think everyone does. So, just to hang on, just wait 1 second because I can't speak over that. It's going to be called that from now on, isn't it? Right. I would just like to wrap up and thank everyone for speaking there. I do just want to pick up on something that I thought of while Jessie was speaking. So two, okay. Right. One thing that I realised when Jessie was speaking is this movement really started a lot with middle-aged women. The reason it started with us is we've all been kids who wanted to be boys, 12-year-olds who wanted to be boys. For me, it was when I was about 18, discovered that women are meant to like high heels and shopping, while I was studying physics at university in a highly male course. And I walked around, I can remember I spent months walking around going, I appear to be more male. Had this ideology been around then, I dread to think what I would have done. I mean, I'm a wuss, I probably wouldn't have had hormones, but I would have definitely been walking around going, I'm non-binary. Yeah. It's just an idiotic ideology, which is incredibly tempting. And the world has got so much worse for women in terms of the porn and the expectations which are pushed at them constantly. Anyway. Oh look, we've got another man trying to interrupt us. You can go and do your speech somewhere. Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
They did say all human rights. I'm not sure.
Oh. Okay. Right, anyway, so we're just finishing our event today. It's been absolutely fantastic and we will be back. I've loved seeing you all and there might be more of us next time. Thank you.